As always, here's this week's story from the Big Fish Kids Club for you to enjoy once again. The wonderful story of Bartimaeus. I love it so much. And make sure you stick around until the end, where I'm going to have a couple of questions for you, just to make you think a little bit more about the story and what the Bible is trying to say to us in this story. Enjoy. Our story today begins with a man standing outside a house. But he wasn't just standing still, he was pacing this way. And then he would turn around and he would pace back this way. And then he would turn around and he would pace back this way. You see, there was something happening within the house that was so excited. And the man was just waiting to hear the news, to hear what had happened. No, he wasn't on his own outside the house. A huge crowd had gathered because they were all really excited about what was going to be going on inside the house. You see, news had spread that a baby was just about to be born. And people always get really excited when a baby's just about to be born, aren't they? So they were all there with the expectant dad outside the house, watching him pace this way and watching him pace that way. Because you see, back in those days, dads would never have been there when a baby was born. They would always have waited outside, waiting for the news of what had happened. And as the dad was pacing back and forth, suddenly he thought he heard it. The crowd nudged each other. Was that a cry? Did you hear a baby cry? I think I did. The dad raced into the house to find out what was going on. And he came back out with the biggest smile on his face. Everyone said, "Has the baby arrived?" "Yes," says the dad. "It's so exciting." And they asked the question that everyone always asks. Is it a boy or is it a girl? And you know, there might be a bit of a clue on my board by here, because all of the words down by here begin with a big letter B. And the answer to the question begins with a big letter B as well. It was a boy. Oh, wow, they said, "You must be so excited. Have you decided on a name yet?" He said, "We have. And this is his name." Now, it's a bit of a long name, and I'll try my best to spell it correctly, but here we go. This is what he said. Now, if you've not seen this before, I'm going to paint some yellow letters with my magic black paintbrush. So watch the yellow bits, and you'll see the letters starting to appear. So remember, it starts with a B, and then there's an A, and then there's an R, then there's a T, then there's an I, then there's an M, then there's an A, then there's an E, then there's a U, and then there's an S. The dad said his name is Bartimaeus. That's not a name you hear very often nowadays, is it? But it was a very special name, Bartimaeus. Because you see, back in Israel, which is where this story took place, back in the time when Jesus lived, which is when this story took place, names were really important. In fact, names were so important that they always had special meanings. And people would have known just what the name Bartimaeus meant, and the crowd would have said, "Oh, highly prized son." And Dad said, "Yes, that's what we've decided to call him, because he is our highly prized son. We have called him Bartimaeus." Because you see, he would have been highly prized to his mum and his dad. But you know, you may not realise it, but you're highly prized as well. You're highly prized to God. God thinks you are really special. And God has an amazing plan for your life if you're just willing to turn and follow him and put your trust in him. He wants to let you know what that plan is, and he wants you to live that plan out here on earth. But anyway, the mum and dad would have been so proud. They would probably have taken the baby out in the coming months, and people would have seen them in the street, and they said, oh, what a wonderful baby. Or what's his name? Bartimaeus. "Oh, highly prized son. Oh, I can see you're really highly prized him. You must think he's amazing. You must think he's incredible." And mum and dad were so pleased. Now, I don't know when it happened, but mum and dad started to notice that Bartimaeus had a bit of a problem. I wonder whether at the beginning they might have looked at his legs and wondered whether the problem was with his legs, because he kept bumping into things and stuff like that. But then over time they would have realised that the problem wasn't with Bartimaeus' legs. You see, the problem that Bartimaeus had was actually with his eyes. You see, they would have realised that probably since he was born, Bartimaeus had been this by here. Bartimaeus was, remember, it starts with a B, so he was blind. Now, nowadays there are lots of things we can do to help people who are blind so that they can live a life just like everybody else. But back in those days, there wasn't much they could do to help people. And so it meant that Bartimaeus had to end up becoming another word beginning with the letter B. You see, Bartimaeus back in those days wasn't able to get a job, so he wasn't able to earn any money, and so he didn't have any money to feed himself and clothe himself. So Bartimaeus had to become one of these by here. Bartimaeus had to become, remember it begins with the B again, he had to become a beggar. Now a beggar is just someone who has a need and asks for help. Bartimaeus wasn't able to work himself, and so he needed money to be able to have clothes to wear and food to eat. So Bartimaeus became a beggar who would sit and he would ask people for money. Would you like to see a picture of Bartimaeus? Here you go, I'm going to paint him by here for you now. You see, the Bible tells us where Bartimaeus used to do his begging. You see, Bartimaeus lived in a great, huge city called Jericho. It was a beautiful city, but, well, Bartimaeus didn't know that, because Bartimaeus would never have been able to see it. But you see, Bartimaeus was told the best place to go to sit, to beg, and ask for help. And so Bartimaeus would sit outside the city gates. There we go, I've a bit of a box there. And on his box it would probably say something like, "Please help the blind beggar." And Bartimaeus would sit there outside the gate. And he knew that was a great place to sit because, you see, it was the one main gate into and out of the city of Jericho. And so he knew that if he sat there, he would see all the people going into the city and he would see all the people going out of the city and he'd be able to ask them for help. And Bartimaeus would sit there day after day after day, asking people, could they please help him? Now, this one day, Bartimaeus started to notice that something was different. Now, as I said, this was a good place to go in for Bartimaeus to beg because there were lots of people going into and out of the city. There would always be lots and lots of people around. But on this one day, Bartimaeus started to notice something different. You see, instead of there just being lots and lots of people around, there were actually lots and lots and lots and lots of people around. Now, you might be thinking, what have Steve done by here? Because they just seem like coloured lines. But if I give them some heads across the top by here, there we go. And some feet down by there we go, some feet there and some arms. There were lots and lots and lots and lots of people coming into and out of the city. There was a huge crowd of people there. And Bartimaeus thought something important must be going on. So he tapped someone that was going past. He said, hey, what's happening today? Why are there so many people around? And the person would have said, don't you know he's inside the city? Who said Bartimaeus? Somebody important like the king? No, said the person. Somebody much, much more important than the king. Bartimaeus said, you don't mean Jesus? Is Jesus inside the city? Yes, they said. And actually he's on his way this way now. He's going to pass just by where you're sitting in a moment. Oh, wow, thought Bartimaeus. He'd heard the most amazing stories about Jesus. He'd heard that Jesus was able to heal people who were deaf so they could hear again. He heard that Jesus had actually been able to bring people back to life when they were dead. But the most important thing for Bartimaeus was he'd heard that Jesus had been able to heal people who were blind so that they could see again. Bartimaeus thought, wow, I know that Jesus is probably the only person who can help me with the problem that I have. I'm sure if I can speak to Jesus, then Jesus will be able to help me and I'll be able to see. So Bartimaeus put down his little beggar's box because he didn't want anything to stop him from being able to get to Jesus. And then he listened very carefully to the crowd. He waited until he could hear lots of people saying Jesus' name, and he thought this must be the time Jesus must be going past. And so he called out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Which meant that he was just saying, Jesus, please help me. And the people in the crowd probably said, oh, Bartimaeus, be quiet. Jesus isn't interested in a blind beggar like you, Bartimaeus. He's only interested in important people like us. But Bartimaeus knew that was a lie. He knew that Jesus loves everyone. And you know, the Bible says that Jesus loves everybody. He loved Bartimaeus, but he loves you and me as well. He loves each and every one of us, and he has an amazing plan for our lives if we're just willing to turn and put our trust in him and follow him. You see, if we do that, then we can know the amazing plan he has for us and actually become part of his family and one day get to be with him forever. But I'll tell you about that in a bit. Well, anyway, Bartimaeus knew that they were lying, so he drew in the biggest breath he could draw. He knew that it was probably the last chance he had, and he called out, "Jesus, have mercy on me!" Jesus heard what Bartimaeus was calling out. He turned around to the crowd. He said, "Who was that?" "Oh, Jesus, don't worry. It's only the blind beggar Bartimaeus," they said. "You don't need to bother with him." Jesus said, "Go to Bartimaeus. Tell him that I have heard him and that I want him to come to me." And so one of the crowd walked up to Bartimaeus and told him probably the most amazing words that Bartimaeus ever heard. Because they turned to Bartimaeus and they said, "Bartimaeus, Jesus heard you cry, and he does this." This is what they said. "Jesus heard you cry, and he calls you." Jesus calls you to come to him. Oh, wow. That would have been the most amazing thing that Bartimaeus would have heard. He'd have got the crowd to help him up, lead him across to Jesus. And then Jesus asked him a bit of a strange question. He said, "What do you want me to do for you?" Now, do you think Bartimaeus said, "Oh, Jesus, I would love it if you'd come back to my house and have tea with my mum and my dad"? I'm sure Bartimaeus would have been really pleased to have Jesus come back to his house for tea. But that wasn't what Bartimaeus said. I wonder, do you think Bartimaeus might have said, "Oh, Jesus, could you put a bit of money in my beggar's box because I would really love to have some fish for tea"? I don't think he said that either. You see, the Bible tells us what Bartimaeus said. He said, "Jesus, will you please help me to see?" And you know, Jesus turned to him and he said, "Bartimaeus, because you have trusted in me, because you have believed in me, you have been healed." And just like that, it was as though Bartimaeus' eyes were opened for the first time. And it was all because he'd believed and trusted in Jesus. And you know, the first thing he would have seen would have been the most incredible thing to see, because who was the first person that Bartimaeus saw? Well, he would have seen the person who was standing right in front of him. He would have seen Jesus. Wow, that must have been incredible. Can you imagine that? The first thing you ever see is actually Jesus himself. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? But you know, the Bible tells us that was probably the last time that Bartimaeus saw Jesus. Not because Bartimaeus became blind again, but because the Bible tells us that when Jesus left that city of Jericho, he went on to another city called Jerusalem. And you see, Jesus was only there a couple of days before some people who were very unhappy with what he was doing and what he was saying decided to take him, and they placed him upon a cross. And there he died. Now you see, people were normally put on a cross because they'd done things that were wrong. In fact, there were two criminals either side of Jesus, is what the Bible says, who were there because, well, they'd stolen things. They'd done things that were wrong. But, you know, Jesus wasn't on that cross because he'd done anything wrong. Because the Bible tells us that Jesus never did anything wrong. He's the only one who ever walked on this earth and never did anything wrong at all. You see, the Bible tells us that as Jesus died on that cross, he wasn't paying the punishment for the things that he'd done wrong, but he was actually paying the punishment for the things that Bartimaeus had done wrong. He was paying the punishment for all the things that the crowd had done that were wrong. He was paying the punishment for all the things that you've done that are wrong and all the things that I've done that are wrong. You see, the Bible says that all those wrong things that we've done actually stop us from knowing Jesus' amazing plan for our lives and being able to trust and follow him. And the Bible says that just like Jesus called Bartimaeus, so actually he also calls you to trust and follow him. You see, the Bible says what we need to do is we need to turn away from the things we've done that are wrong. Turn to Jesus and say, "Jesus, I'm sorry for all those things I've done that are wrong. Will you please forgive me? I believe in you and I want to trust in you and follow you." And you know, the Bible says that because Jesus didn't just die on that cross, but actually 3 days later, he came back to life again. He's able to give us new life with him if we just put our trust in him. Do you know, For 12 years of my life, I was blind. Now, I don't mean like Bartimaeus. These eyes have always been fine. I need glasses, but I can still see okay. But I was blind because actually I didn't realize what Jesus had done for me on the cross. I didn't realize what it meant for me to turn and put my trust in him. But you see, when I was 12 years old, somebody explained to me about the cross. They explained to me what Jesus had done for me there, how much he loved and cared for me, and how he wanted me to become part of his family. And he would do that if I was just willing to turn and say I was sorry to him and put my trust in him. And I want to tell you that he calls you as well. Just like he called Bartimaeus, just like he called me to follow him, so he calls you to follow him too. And what he wants you to do is to realize that you've messed up on your own in your own life, doing things that are wrong. He wants you to turn to him, to say you're sorry for the things you've done that are wrong. So you realize that he's God, that actually he needs to be the boss of your life. And say, Jesus, I want to put you in charge. I want you to be the boss of everything in my life. And he says that if we do that, then he'll forgive us of all the things we've done that are wrong. He gives us an amazing life here on earth because we know that each and every step of the way, each and every day, he's with us. And he says that he'll make us part of his family, which means that one day we'll get to be in heaven with him forever, which is the most amazing and incredible news. I wonder, is he calling you today to put your trust in him? If you want to know more about how you can do that, then always just message us and we'll be more than happy to tell you how you can put your trust in Jesus today. Well, I hope you enjoyed that story as much as you did the first time, if not even more, because you might have spotted some bits that you missed the first time. I always do when I watch the stories back. But here's a couple of questions for you. The first one is this. I told you, didn't I, that the name Bartimaeus means highly prized son. And I said, didn't I, that actually we're highly prized to God. And actually he has an amazing plan for our lives if we're willing to trust and follow him. I want to ask you, the first question is, how does it make you feel to know that you are highly prized by God? The second one is then that Bartimaeus put his trust in Jesus. And we're told to put our trust in Jesus as well because of what he did on the cross. Now I wonder, why do you think Jesus was able to take the punishment for the things that you and I have done wrong as he died on the cross? What was it I said about Jesus' life that meant that he could take the things that you and I have done that are wrong? The last one then is, Bartimaeus was told that Jesus calls him. We said at the top of the board, didn't it? He calls you. And you know, I said, didn't I, that he calls you as well? I want to ask, do you know what it means that Jesus calls you to put your trust in him? And I wonder, have you put your trust in him? And if not, why not? Big questions, some tough questions, but have a chat through them with your grown-up. And if you're unsure about anything or you want to let us know what you're thinking, then message us. And we'd love to talk to you and explain a little bit more about some of the answers to those questions as well. Anyway, we look forward to seeing you in the next Big Fish Kids Club.